Okay, so let's take a minute to finish using our checklist to roll up any data. I know I need to finish calculating on-task data, so let's take a minute there. When you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get on-task data?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you get?
91.
Okay, I had 65, and here's why.
Okay.
A lot of the kids that I counted as off-task, it's one of those like, were they off-task or weren't they off-task? They were sitting. They were sitting because their work was done, but their work wasn't necessarily right. So that's where I think there is that the difference between our on-task data. So I do have a lower because I started counting the number of kids who were just sitting, they weren't writing.
Okay.
To be fair, we weren't in there for the directions, so we don't know what the direction was for when they were done. What about work completion?
Low 20. Of the ones that I actually really looked at, I only saw about 3 that didn't have anything or just had like one line. The rest of them all had multiple colors. They had gotten to their evidence.
Huge win for volume of writing. Huge increase. I also started, this is going a little off track, did you notice work quality?
Would you count spelling?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like, I can't, here's my actual question.
It was hard to see for me. A lot of the green.
The green was, yeah, I didn't like that.
She said she could read, and I said, well, I guess you can read it, then that's all that matters.
I had a good handful of kids read theirs to me.
Yeah, I couldn't read a lot of the green to determine if they were actual details, and then some that I did see, the detail wasn't an actual detail. It was either the central message or just some other like random part of the story, but not an actual message.
Now that's interesting because I went around and was reading the purple, and I only saw 4 correct central messages. I think this is where we can like hone our focus around her action step. What are you thinking needs to be our priority, needs to be our fix? Let me try that question again.
Okay.
Where do you think we need to see the most change based off where we know her baseline indicator data is? We're at 3%, knowing that we have 20% of kids with correct central messages. How are we going to push Ms. Coleman and her students?
So my wonder is, because we told them they could use a textbook or they could use their note catcher, and I wonder how many note catchers in the first place were correct for them to be able to refer back to use it.
And I didn't see note catchers, I wasn't checking those.
I wasn't either. But essentially they've been doing this book multiple times, so they should have it. So the fact that they don't, my first wonder is, did they have the right information to pull from? Because that's what I was doing, was telling reference what you already wrote. But then I also don't know how what we saw was that after the sentence stems were on the board, or was that what they did before, which caused her to put the sentence on the board? So that's another.
Last week's action step was around directions, clear thinking job and directions, and then narrating based off both the directions and the CFS.
I I heard her she did not narrate while we were in there to
Mm-hmm.
the class, but I did hear her using the narrations to the specific students, but not to a class.
Do you think that could have been something, knowing that like a lot of the off-task percentage that I had was because kids were sitting and not fixing, not editing their work. They were sitting with wrong work. Do you think that could have been a place where we saw an increase, an uptick for student work or on-task data? Okay. How do you feel about that being her next step?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you're thinking.
My real thought is I don't know. Being in there for 5 minutes did not give me a clear indication of like what that writing came from. Did that writing come after she fixed it, or was that writing before?
I see what you mean. Then we need a little bit more. We need more data here.
I feel like I do.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with your assessment though, but I also don't know if their wrong answers. That was even after she fixed it, or that was like where they were. We were starting over, and she was going through it.
I see what you mean. Yep. Knowing that this lesson called for a release,
yes, and then
stop and come back. Yep. How did we end here when there was a stop gate in this lesson? I see what you mean. So like leaning into this idea of like lesson fidelity and lesson integrity. Okay, I think that's worth unpacking. I also think it might be worth going to see later this afternoon. I wonder if I can see that with you. Cool.
I think she does reading after the we'll figure it out.
I think so too. Okay. Do you want to hold off on putting an action step in for her? Or should we commit to the narrating, knowing that that's also something you could go in and real-time coach on this afternoon?
I think we should leave the action step because I don't think we saw enough to decide that we need to change it.
Okay.
But I think that one still is relevant to where they are now.
Okay. So this afternoon, you're going to catch her afternoon block.
Yes. I'll just look for the schedule stuff.
I have it over here. I'm sorry. You gave it to me. You stole it. You gave it to me and I stole it. When you go in this afternoon, what are you going to look for?
We're going to look for narrations.
Aligned to the CFS?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like immediately, so that we don't get to where we are.
I think as soon as she releases. I think there's a level of urgency knowing that 3% of kids are hitting the baseline. The goal this week is 30%. The quicker she's narrating, the quicker we're going to see movement. Sound right?
Yeah.
Great.